Last week we looked at the animations and other aspects of the interaction between the wolf and the elk during the big showdown when the elk turns to defend itself at the end of the hunt. This week, let's look at the music that we're putting together for that same part of the game. We've got, once again, some fabulous music made by our composer, Tim Buzza, who's been making WolfQuest music since 2007. And he's created this set of tracks for the Elk Showdown. So we've got some percussion. As the tension increases, we'll have some of these extra percussion tracks. And then we've got a bunch of really great guitar tracks. That's sort of the main themes for it. And then this kind of electric energy in the background. Now, all these won't play at the same time. We're building a set of layers, we call them, that use different combinations of tracks. So you might have that for a little bit, and then this one's my favorite. Tim called it synapses, because it's like the wolf is thinking quickly about where and how to attack the wolf next. Where and how to attack the elk next. So Tim created all of these, and we talked over different ways to combine them in the game. And then our developer, Andrei, from Brazil, has been working on all the code, all the logic to connect the gameplay actions with the musical tracks. So now we've got this set up in the game with a bunch of these tracks that Tim Buzza composed, now distilled down into, what do we got here? Here we've got, for this showdown, we've got 3, 4, 5, about eight different layers that we trigger based on what's happening in the game. And here in the lower right corner, you can see the nice debug panel that Andrei set up with the Elk Showdown, and it's showing which layer we're currently playing. So we're some distance from the elk and not moving, so it's the idle far track, showing us the distance to the elk, and a bunch of other stuff. That's all the logic that Andrei has set up. You can read about that in the text below in the blog post. Andrei's written about how he tackled this problem. So now that we start moving, we get another one of these layer sets playing to show a little higher level of energy. And then if we get closer, then we change again. So this is this adaptive music system that we're using in WolfQuest 3, which is much more sophisticated and interesting and responsive to the gameplay than the old system, which just plays this track, and then when that's done, plays another track, or something might interrupt it. Here, it's always paying attention to what's going on in the game and changing which of these layers from all the music that Tim made for this piece of gameplay to play. And so we're still tuning. Now, we had these ideas about what's going to sound good when you're moving, when you're idle, when you're close, when you're far. Now we've got it all in the game and can really play around with it and see, like, at what distance, like circling far, maybe that's a little bit too much music, because it's a real jarring shift from that circling music to the idle music. That might be a little too much, or at least I need to tweak the volume, tweak the mix of tracks here to make it a little less jarring of a transition. And then we get closer and we switch into these other ones. So the idea is that the music builds in intensity as you get closer and as the action gets more intense. So we now switch to the inspector view in Unity, and we can see this is Andrei's hub with all the stuff that he's developed and the musical moments that he talks about in the description below. And now we're here in the Elk Showdown theme. And here, if we look at the theme layer sets player, here's how he's configured this very nicely, again, with all these layers of this theme. And then for each of these, idle far or circling far, this is how it's configured to use which elements, these layer elements, in each of these layer sets is what we call them. So some of them just use the percussion, for example, if you're just idling at a 20 meters away or so. But as you get closer, you use more and more to build up that intensity. So when we're circling close, there's 3 different layers being played in that set. So one thing I can do is change which of these plays in each of these layer sets. The other thing I can do, and I'm going to start off with this. So I'm going to switch over to Master Audio. That's the plugin that we're using for overall audio management. And I'm going to scroll down to the one of the layers that we're using. It's called tension. In that, circling at a far distance, because it's just too much sound, too much music. It's too intense for being at that distance. So I'm going to take the volume on that layer and we're going to let's bring it way down. What are we at here? It's a little deceptive how the volume slider works. This looks like it'd be almost inaudible, but if it's above 50%, you can hardly tell a difference. So I'm going to bring it way down to something like that. And now let's switch back to the game. So we're at idle far. That's better. Still a little more than I want. So let's really knock it down. So that transition is much nicer. Now, of course, all the volume is going to be higher as we get closer. It's going to go, whoa, kind of blow us away there. So I have to go through and do a lot of I got to get away from this thing to quiet the music down. You notice when the layer sets, the currently playing doesn't change instantly because we have it set up to change every 4 measures at a minimum, so we don't have these offbeat transitions as much as possible, except when really necessary when there's something urgent. So it's a lot of experimentation to see just what sounds right, what feels right. But we're real excited about this adaptive music system and, of course, all of Tim Buzz's amazing music as we are putting all this together.